Scene opens with a shot of a seemingly healthy grocery cart. It's filled with colorful boxes of cereal, whole wheat bread, flavored yogurts, kids' juice boxes, and lean-looking frozen dinners. What if I told you that over half of the food in this shopping cart has been scientifically designed in a way that could be making you sick? It looks healthy. The labels say things like natural, whole grain, and low fat, but it can be a carefully constructed illusion designed to get you and your family to consume something that barely qualifies as food. Shocking data estimates that nearly 60% of the calories the average American adult eats come from these substances. For our kids, some studies show it's even worse, soaring to nearly 70%. And we're not just talking about the obvious stuff, the chips, the candy, the soda. This is about a quiet takeover of our kitchens. It's in the bread, the breakfast cereal, the pasta sauces, and even some baby formulas. These aren't really foods. They're industrial formulations, and there is a mountain of evidence suggesting they are driving the epidemics of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease that are devastating our society. So the question isn't just if these products are harming us. The real questions are, how did we let this happen? How did giant corporations, in their endless pursuit of profit, get an entire population hooked on products that are damaging their health? And most importantly, what can we do to fight back? The story of how your dinner became a science experiment starts not in a kitchen, but in a lab. It begins with a simple business problem. Real food is inconvenient. It spoils. Its flavor isn't always consistent. It's tough to scale into billions of identical units that can sit on a shelf for months or even years and taste exactly the same every single time. For the modern food industry, this wasn't a feature of nature, but a bug to be engineered away. So they deconstructed food. They took things like corn, wheat, and soy and broke them down into their basic chemical components: starches, sugars, fats, and proteins. Then, using industrial processes you'd never recognize from any kitchen, they reassembled them. They added a cocktail of chemicals to get it all just right. Emulsifiers for texture, artificial colors to make it look appealing, synthetic flavors to mimic something real, and preservatives to give it a near-infinite shelf life. This is the birth of ultra-processed food. And the contents of this shopping cart, and likely the contents of your shopping cart, are the result. To understand the problem, we first need to be able to identify it. The term ultra-processed food, or UPF, comes from a classification system called NOVA, which was developed by researchers trying to figure out why diet-linked diseases were skyrocketing, even as people thought they were eating healthier. The NOVA system doesn't rank food by nutrients like fat or carbs, but by its level of processing. Think of it this way. An apple picked from a tree is an unprocessed food. If you take that apple, slice it, and cook it down with some water, you get applesauce. That's a processed food. The apple has been changed, but you could still easily make it in your own kitchen. But now, imagine you take that apple, strip out its fiber, extract its sugar, and combine it with corn-derived glucose syrup, hydrogenated palm oil, soy protein isolate, artificial apple flavoring, industrial dyes to make it bright green, and a chemical emulsifier like carboxymethylcellulose to give it a chewy, gummy texture. You then shape it into a cartoon character and pack it in shiny plastic. That is an ultra-processed food. It's an industrial formulation made from substances extracted from foods or synthesized in a lab. The key is in the ingredient list. If you read the label and see a long list of things you can't pronounce and definitely don't have in your pantry, things like maltodextrin, mono and diglycerides, high fructose corn syrup, or potassium sorbate, you are holding a UPF. And this is the great deception. We're trained to spot the obvious bad guys. We know a can of soda isn't great for us. We know a bag of fluorescent orange cheese puffs isn't health food. But we don't expect these same industrial ingredients to be hiding in our sandwich bread, our healthy breakfast cereal, our flavored yogurt, or even the plant-based meat substitutes we pick up for ethical or health reasons. This is how they've taken over, not by replacing our meals with obvious junk, but by transforming our staples into UPFs. One analysis found that around 58% of staple foods in major US supermarkets are ultra-processed. They have quietly replaced the food in our food supply with these hyperpalatable, nutrient-poor, chemical-laden products. They are engineered to be convenient, cheap, and, as we're about to see, engineered to be eaten in excess. Why is it so hard to eat just one potato chip? Why do you finish a bowl of sugary cereal and feel hungry again an hour later? Is it just a lack of willpower? The food industry has spent billions of dollars to make you think so. But the truth is, you're not in a fair fight. You're up against teams of food scientists whose job is to create products that bypass your body's natural signals of fullness. Their holy grail is something they call the bliss point. The bliss point is the precise, scientifically determined combination of salt, sugar, and fat that creates the most pleasure for the human brain. It's a sensory explosion designed to light up your brain's dopamine reward centers. Each bite is engineered for a specific mouthfeel and a vanishing caloric density, a trick where the food melts in your mouth so quickly that your brain doesn't register the calories you're eating, fooling you into wanting more. Real food doesn't work like this. A piece of steak needs serious chewing. A stalk of broccoli has a slightly bitter note our brains register. These foods give your body feedback. They fill you up and signal that you're satisfied. Ultra-processed foods are designed to do the exact opposite. Their soft texture means they require less chewing and are eaten much faster, leading to what researchers call passive overconsumption. You just eat more calories before your brain can tell you to stop. This is a deliberate strategy. These products are often low in fiber and protein, the two key things that make you feel full. By stripping these out and swapping in rapidly absorbed refined carbs and fats, food companies create products that don't truly satisfy you. You get a huge, brief spike in blood sugar, followed by a crash that leaves you feeling tired, irritable, and craving. You guessed it, more of their product. It's a vicious and very profitable cycle. So no, it is not a failure of your personal responsibility. You are a human being with a biology that evolved to seek out energy. That biology is being systematically hijacked by an industry that profits from keeping you coming back for more. They have mastered food science, and the consequences for our collective health have been nothing short of catastrophic. If the way these foods are designed is the strategy, then the state of our health is the proof. The explosion of ultra-processed foods in our diet has perfectly mirrored the rise of chronic diseases that are now the leading causes of death worldwide. The link isn't a fringe theory anymore. It's a scientifically established fact, documented in major studies covering millions of people. Let's start with the ultimate price. A huge 2024 review of 45 separate, large-scale studies found convincing evidence that high consumption of ultra-processed foods was linked to a 50% increased risk of death from cardiovascular disease. Another major study in the BMJ found that people who ate the most UPFs had a significantly higher risk of dying from any cause. The data is clear. The more of this stuff people eat, the more likely they are to die prematurely. But what about the long, slow decline before that? Let's look at what happens inside our bodies. Our hearts. High UPF consumption is directly associated with a greater risk of heart attacks and high blood pressure. Studies show that for every 10% increase in the proportion of UPFs in your diet, there is a corresponding jump in heart disease risk. These products are often loaded with sodium, unhealthy fats, and sugar, a perfect storm for driving up blood pressure and promoting the kind of chronic inflammation that damages our bodies. Our metabolism. This is probably the best-known link. The constant flood of refined sugar and carbs can overwhelm our insulin response, leading directly to weight gain, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. Studies have shown as much as a 55% increased risk of obesity for those with high UPF consumption. It's not just about the calories. It's about the hormonal chaos these products can create. Our brains. This is where the science is getting really scary. We now have strong evidence associating high UPF intake with mental health issues and cognitive decline. That same 2024 review found a 48% increased risk of anxiety and a 20% increased risk of depression. Other research is now drawing a line between UPFs and a higher risk of dementia, though this link is still being actively investigated. One study noted that a 10% increase in UPF consumption was associated with a 16% higher risk of cognitive impairment. Think about it. The food in our pantries could be contributing to robbing us of our memories and our minds by promoting inflammation and displacing the vital nutrients our brains need. For our children, this is arguably the biggest tragedy. For kids and teens in the US, studies estimate that UPFs make up about 2/3 of their diet. We are raising the first generation that might have a shorter life expectancy than their parents, and this is a primary reason why. High UPF consumption in childhood is linked to obesity and asthma. We are setting them up for a lifetime of chronic illness before they're even old enough to choose for themselves. This is the true cost of convenience. It's the health risk hiding in plain sight, one packaged meal at a time. The success of the ultra-processed food takeover depends on a sophisticated game of deception. Food companies are masters of creating a health halo around products that are anything but healthy. It starts right on the front of the package. You see claims like, made with whole grains, good source of vitamin D, or low fat. These terms are legally regulated, but they can be incredibly misleading. Yes, a sugary kid's cereal might contain a pinch of whole grain flour, but it's buried under an avalanche of refined sugar and corn syrup. That low-fat yogurt is often packed with more sugar than a brownie to make it taste good. And natural is maybe the most meaningless word of all. Arsenic is natural, but you don't want it in your snack bar. This is where healthy UPFs are so tricky. We've been taught we're making a good choice. Take flavored yogurts. Plain yogurt is a great, minimally processed food. But many commercial flavored yogurts are ultra-processed mixes of milk powders, sugar, artificial sweeteners, thickeners, and colorings. The same goes for most protein bars, which are often just candy bars with some added soy protein isolate. Even 100% fruit juice can be a Trojan horse. While it might not have added sugar, stripping the fiber from the fruit turns it into a concentrated sugar bomb that hits your liver almost as hard as a can of soda. And what about the organic label? Surely that's safe? Not always. Product can be both organic and ultra-processed. You can buy organic potato chips, organic frozen pizzas, and organic toaster pastries. The ingredients might be organic, but the industrial formulation, the nutrient stripping, and the hyperpalatable engineering are all the same. The organic label just makes us feel better about buying a UPF, often for a higher price. The deception runs even deeper, down to the packaging itself. The plastic linings of cans and wrappers can contain chemicals like bisphenol, BPA, and phthalates. These are known endocrine disruptors, meaning they can mess with your body's hormones, and they can leach from the packaging into your food. It's a chemical cocktail from the product itself to the container it's in. They've created a food environment so confusing that just trying to buy healthy food feels like a full-time job. They capitalize on our desire to do the right thing for our families, turning our good intentions into profit while our health pays the price. Look, I know this is an overwhelming and infuriating picture. It's easy to feel powerless against such a massive system, but I want to pause here and ask you, what's the most surprising or shocking healthy food you've discovered is actually ultra-processed? Let me know in the comments below. Reading your stories is incredibly important. It helps all of us see the patterns, share knowledge, and realize we're not alone in this. Your experience is part of the solution. All right, we've defined the problem, we've seen the consequences, and we understand the stakes. Now, let's talk about how we win. This isn't about guilt or shame. It's about empowerment. Taking back control of your health doesn't mean you have to be a nutritionist or a master chef. It just means you have to be a detective and it starts with one simple move: turning the package over. Rule number 1: read the ingredients, not the marketing. The front of the box is advertising. The truth is on the back. This is your number 1 weapon. Here are 2 simple rules of thumb to use. First, the 5-ingredient rule. If a product has more than 5 ingredients, just pause and take a closer look. It's not a perfect rule, but it's a great starting point. Second, and more importantly, the kitchen rule. Read the ingredients and ask, would I have these in my kitchen? If you see things like soy lecithin, xanthan gum, potassium sorbate, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, or artificial sweeteners like sucralose, you're holding a UPF. Put it back. Rule number 2: shop the perimeter of the store. This is classic advice for a reason. Supermarkets are designed to lead you through the center aisles, where the most profitable, ultra-processed items live. The real, whole food is almost always around the edges. Fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh meat and fish, eggs and plain dairy. If you make a real effort to spend most of your time and money on the perimeter, you'll automatically dodge the worst offenders. Rule number 3: aim for better, not perfect. The goal isn't a 100% UPF-free diet. For most of us, that's an impossible standard that just leads to stress and burnout. Instead, think about progress. Don't just focus on what to remove. Think about what you can add. Add 1 more vegetable to your dinner. Have a piece of fruit for a snack. By focusing on crowding out the bad stuff with more of the good stuff, you naturally shift your diet in the right direction. Rule number 4: cook 1 more meal a week. The single greatest defense against the UPF industry is your own kitchen. Cooking is the ultimate act of taking back control. But it doesn't have to be a huge production. Just commit to cooking 1 more meal from scratch each week. Instead of a jarred pasta sauce, many are UPFs. Try a simple one with canned tomatoes, garlic, and herbs. Takes 20 minutes. Instead of breakfast cereal, make a big batch of oatmeal for the week. Small swaps, repeated over time, lead to massive change. Finally, we have to acknowledge that having these choices is a privilege. The system is designed to make UPFs the cheapest and easiest option, especially for people with limited time, money, or access to fresh food. This is a social justice issue, not just an individual one. If you're on a tight budget, focus on the most cost-effective whole foods. Lentils, beans, rice, oats, eggs, and frozen vegetables, which are just as nutritious as fresh. This fight needs systemic change, but it starts with our choices, which send a powerful message back to the industry. We started this journey with a shopping cart full of what looked like food but was actually a collection of engineered industrial products. We've learned that these aren't just junk food, but staples that have quietly taken over our diets. We've seen how they're designed in labs to bypass our body's fullness signals, encouraging overconsumption. And we've looked at the powerful evidence linking them to a wave of chronic disease and early death. But the most important takeaway here isn't fear, it's knowledge. The food industry's business model relies on consumer confusion. They thrive behind misleading labels and fancy marketing. The moment you start reading ingredients, the moment you choose a real apple over an apple-flavored gummy snack, you become a threat to that model. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding that you're living in a food environment that wasn't built with your health as its top priority. Taking back control is a revolutionary act. It's a declaration that your health and your family's health are not for sale. It is your most valuable asset, and it's time to protect it. The power has been in your hands all along. It's in every choice you make at the grocery store. It's time to start using it. If this video opened your eyes, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation into the food industry. And for a deeper dive, check out the next video where we expose the top 5 health foods you need to stop buying today. Thank you for watching.